Because we're talking about connected cars, self-driving cars, but who pays the bill? Who pays the bill and how will pay the bill? At the end of the day, we know that we have cars, but we will use the cars. Who will be the owner and who pays and who will finance? That's the reason why we'll start in 1 minute the next roundtable talking about the new role for financial services in the mobility revolution. I am Josep Piqué, I'm the president of ISP, the International Network Science Park, and really I had the opportunity 2 weeks ago to be in Silicon Valley just analyzing how the companies like Samsung and others are investing a lot in this kind of new business. Let me tell you that in this roundtable, we have the opportunity to listen to Lukas Neckermann, that will be the moderator, and also Manuel Orejas and Matthias Mandelkow. If you come to the stage, I will be happy to give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Come on, everybody. Come on in. All right. Yeah? All right, ladies and gentlemen, all over this conference today, you will hear talk about zero emissions, zero accidents, zero ownership. You will hear talk about connected vehicles. You will hear talk about autonomous vehicles, shared vehicles. You will hear talk about what is effectively the mobility revolution. And all of this is underpinned by money flows, cash transfers, the financial services industry. We're going to talk about today how this industry is evolving, how it's progressing, how it's changing in order to suit the needs of the mobility revolution. So let me first take you through the journey about coming from a car-focused to a mobility-focused world. Right now, all of the business models are based around the car. All right? Whether you have dealers, whether you have insurance, whether you have financing, sharing, rental, leasing, all of these business models have been created around the car for the last 120 years. And even the tangent business models, whether it's cleaning and maintenance and fleet management and road maintenance and road tolls, these industries have all been created around the premise that we have a car at the center. There are changes, social, infrastructural, governmental, commercial, financial changes that are going to be taking this industry from being car-centric, where you have public transport and real estate and urban planning in a different world, maybe even entertainment, telecoms, and energy in a different world. These are currently not the same industry. But we are moving these industries together. We are combining, we are merging these industries. And what we will have as a next step is no longer the car at the middle of this world. You will have read these headlines. VW prepares to become a mobility provider. They no longer are a car producer. Ford, we're now a mobility company that does more than make cars. BMW is switching from building cars to becoming an autonomous mobility company. And when the chairman of Ford says the role of an automaker is no longer to build cars, but to become a part of a mobility ecosystem, we have to ask the question, what is the mobility ecosystem? What does it mean to be part of a mobility ecosystem? And if we are indeed in a mobility ecosystem, is the car still at the center of everything that we do? Let's think about mobility at the core. And if you think about mobility at the core, you have a different range of industries arising around it. You still have the financial services industry, those things that have allowed you to purchase cars, but you no longer purchase cars. You now have billing and planning and reservation and checking in and out of your pay-per-use mileage. You have a whole range of other industries. And you'll remember from that first slide, we talked about real estate and infrastructure and entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. You have a range of industries that are now being incorporated into the mobility ecosystem. Remember, the car is no longer at the center. We now have mobility, the premise of getting from A to B at the center. The KPI is no longer how many cars you sell, but the KPI is now how many miles you sell, how many kilometers you provide. That is mobility at the core, and that is what we talk about with a mobility ecosystem. So this also means changes to the brands, changes to what we hold dear. And if you think about the first thing that you associate with your car and your steering wheel is the logo in the middle, but now it's no longer the logo on the steering wheel, it's the logo on your smartphone that makes a difference. This is the point of affinity, this is the point of connection that you have in the mobility ecosystem. So let's think about this from a financial services point of view and from an ownership point of view. It used to be, and perhaps today, if you want to buy a car, you go to an OEM, you go to a dealership. If you want to lease a car, which you do maybe for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you go to a captive or a non-captive, a leasing company. If you want to have a car for 3 or 5 months, or maybe 3 to 5 days, or even just for 3 to 5 hours, these were different companies. These were rental companies, these were car sharing companies. And if you just wanted a ride, you might take a taxi, you might take public transport, or you might take a train, or take a plane. These were, again, different companies, and these companies all lived within their own ecosystems. But we have a new ecosystem, a new world now, where these things are merging. We also have the premise of mobility as a service. So let's think about the car manufacturer, and I'll use an example today of Volkswagen. Volkswagen is expanding beyond selling you the car or financing you the car, providing leasing. They will give you shared ownership models. They will provide you the car for 3 days, for 3 months, for 3 days, for 3 hours. But they go beyond that. VW will let you have a car for 3 kilometers or 30 or 50 kilometers. You will have the entire provision of mobility come to you from brands like VW. But I could do exactly the same slide for Daimler. I could do it for Ford. I could do it for BMW. Every single OEM that will survive is moving across the entire ecosystem. And we'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. But it's not just the OEMs moving from the left to the right on this scale. You have other industries that are also playing on this terrain. Let's think about companies that previously were in the middle, in this kind of rental space. You have Sixt that used to give you a car maybe for 3 days or three months. They're moving into the captive space. They're moving into the leasing space. They're moving into multimodal space. They will offer you a ride in a car with a driver. What about public transport operators? We have Deutsche Bahn all of a sudden competing now with Sixt. We have Deutsche Bahn competing with the OEMs. We have public transport operators moving from right to left and competing in the space that the rental car companies, that the captives, the leasing companies, the financing companies, the OEMs have all previously held. So you have an entirely new set of competitors in the mobility ecosystem. This is what we're going to be talking about today in our panel. I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you're interested to hear more about this. We have some very challenging questions, and with this, let me just hand over the floor briefly to our panelists who are going to introduce themselves and the companies. And I'm going to start with Matthias Mandelkow, who's going to share with us a little bit about Sunhill Technologies.
Thank you. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Lukas. It was a very interesting insight, very amazing flip through the new upcoming ecosystems. So we from Sunhill Technologies, we are part of the Volkswagen Financial Services since now 2 years, and we started our travel by making a parking solution We started in Germany, going from city to city and acquiring on-street parking. Now you may ask, what is having this for an impact? Okay, I just flipped through that. Okay, we are created an app called TraviPay, which is travel information payment, and we started in the on-street parking sector. We also developed our journey from coming from one situation, solving a pain point for the customer, going to the next, and it was the garage parking, the exit, the barriered parking. We also have the public transport. By doing this, we came to the situation that the technology we are using for the gated parking, it's also companies like Ski Data, and they are operating in entrance management systems like for skiing arenas and for leisure parks and stuff like that, stadiums. And we also have to go in the field of charging a vehicle. And by combining all this, we are creating a mobility platform which is addressing several fields and several markets, and also aggregating different players and partners and corporations. So our idea is to have a mobility app which is able to solve all the pain points in a modern traveling chain, and by using all the different means of identification and payment. So the integration in the car is the next step. Of course, one of our major objects to solve now is to go together with the car producers in the direction of solving those topics Lukas mentioned right before. So we have created already an ecosystem of parking technology providers, payment service providers, charging column and electricity providers in the public transport, and we need other partners as well to deliver it. In the right now, first tier is Volkswagen Group, but of course we are free to cooperate also with other partners. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lucas. My name is Manuel Orejas. I work in Arval as a marketing and business development director. And you will ask, what is Arval? Okay? And you see BNP Paribas Group. If you play tennis, recently the Godó in Barcelona and today in Madrid, you know BNP Paribas as a group of financial services. They are a bank. Okay? If you ask, what is Arval? Arval is like BMW, like Ford. We are a mobility company. So there is a little paradoxic environment. But today Arval is fully a mobility company. So what do we have in common and what do we have in different? In common, we have the car. We are not the owner of the car. They make the car. But we have been 20 years operating in Spain and 40 years in a pay-on-use method. So it is not so new for us, the pay-on-use method. Okay? We have been 40 years paying by the usage of the car, not by the ownership of the car. That means that we are pure a service company. Okay, we have money. It's true, we are a bank. Thanks God, we have the money to be able to finance the vehicle. But what is true is that we are only for our customer a pure service provider. We provide maintenance, tires, relief vehicle. We provide whatever long-term. Now we provide short-term as well. So we are a worldwide company. We are present in 28 countries. We have more than 1 million vehicles on the road. That is our vehicle with full service lease, providing services to that companies and to that drivers. Okay. Obviously, that's provide to us some kind of expertise in services provider, but somehow a responsibility in the future mobility system. So with this, I leave the floor to Lukas as well for the panel. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and we're going to move ahead just one slide so you have their pictures and you know me. We have a bunch of questions, and it all builds upon this idea that we're moving from an auto-centric to a mobility-centric world. And I'm going to start with Manuel, because you said, and this is very, very important, you already said that you have 20 years of experience in a pay-per-use world here in Spain, which is great. But still, you come from a world where people pay to have the car for 3 years, and or maybe 4 years or whatever. But the customer needs are changing. Customers now want the car for 3 hours or for 3 months or a different period. How is Arval changing its business model to suit those customer needs?
What is clear is that the world in mobility has changed, and I say has changed. That means that we are living now before the change. I think that the change has arrived sooner than we expected in this matter, and everybody is thinking in this concept of new mobility. Arval has adapted. We are no longer a traditional long-term business, like 3-4 years. We can offer any type of solution for 1 month to 70 months. Okay?
So you make a vehicle available now from 1 month to 70 months.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're now competing in a space with rental car companies, but you're also, of course, competing with the captives anyway.
Our value proposition is different, but we are competing with everyone, as everyone is competing with us. So the business model has changed. If a manufacturer provides mobility solutions, that means I'm competing with a manufacturer as well. Okay? That is the nice change that we have had.
Okay, very good. So, Matthias, you come from a company that is a startup, and let's call it a disruptor, someone who's really changing, who's driving the change in our industry. But at the same time, you've now been bought by, let's say, a more classic, traditional company, Volkswagen. But Volkswagen has to have thought about this a little bit. What do they actually want to do together with you?
Yeah, I think the change of mindset, what we also appeared, I was yesterday also in a discussion and having the same question. It's interesting. So it's pretty interesting when you come from the startup mentality to the big group. But you know, back in the days, so 1.5 years ago, Volkswagen was a little bit in trouble, and that made them change their mindset and made the way of thinking differently. And then they were looking for some new ways of thinking, and accidentally we were jumping in that company, and then we were kind of having a good motion, a good momentum out of that. And okay, our thing is now to bring that what we have created in the field of parking and digitalization to the group, to the into the car, and then also be partner for developing this ecosystem of digitalization. Yeah.
So, are you helping Volkswagen think like a startup?
That's a good question. I hope yes. So we try to proceed in that. So we have to keep our DNA. So we have to stick to the agile and fast thinking and fast acting situation. And of course, we also have to adopt some things are not so bad of big companies. So security-wise and being strong in the market position. But I really try, or we really try to keep that DNA, to be fast and agile, and to bring that to the Volkswagen Group.
Okay. So right now, and by the way, we will have time later on for questions as well. So begin to think about the questions that you might want to pose to Manuel and Matthias, and we'll have time for that, because I think this is going to be a great discussion on the future of financial services. Manuel, right now you effectively compete with the company that bought Matthias's company. So you're he's with a captive and you're a non-captive, but this will probably be the case for a while, captives versus non-captive. But looking ahead, who are going to be your key competitors? We had on the chart earlier people like public transport operators and rental car companies. Have you expanded your scope of competitors?
Well, what it's sure is the manufacturers are getting into our business more strongly, I would say. So we have seen that BMW acquired Alphabet, that Volkswagen is making investment in financial services, that Daimler Group has acquired Athlon. So manufacturer will play a key role as a competitor in the future, but a key partner as well to go to this type of business. So
A key partner because you can't do your business without them, but at the same time you compete.
absolutely. The point is we need to deep a little bit more in a sharing economy. What is your pure competitor point of view and what is your sharing point of view to arrive to the market? Because there are some competitors that could be good alliance as well. Another topic is there is not only there. Now Google, Apple are competing with banks. Now we see that short term is competing with long term. Now we see that Google is competing with manufacturers. We see Tesla as a new manufacturer. So our competitors today of the future, we can see the current ones, but you should be worried about what you do not see. And what you do not see are the ones who can worry you.
So it's really a challenge as well to keep your eyes open and to scan the market for new competitors, but also new partners. How do you know who's going to be a competitor and who's going to be a partner?
For me, Arval is a B2B company. Our asset is not the 1 million vehicles that we have in our balance sheet. Our asset is our customers. That means that the customer will demand us some type of services, and this type of services we will need partners to accomplish. These are the right partners because are going to be driven and born in our customer eyes.
So, Matthias, you have a very, very interesting mobile payments system, and you're a technology company. You offer SMS payment for parking, even for public transport. But at the same time, again, as being part of Volkswagen FS, does that limit you, or are you able to partner with additional companies? Who are your future partners, etc.?
Yes, so of course, I like the discussion about the competition, and in parallelly, you need everybody as a partner to create that market. So I think that's exactly what is happening. So we are not obliged only to work for Volkswagen. We're not obliged to brand everything in Volkswagen Financial Services. It's more than what we gain together, and then has as a common strategy to be open, to be like TraviPay is not it's travel information payment. That's the name of our app. And we do not want to brand it in a color of a car. We want to keep it as a standalone, as a white label able app. And we see it, yes. So we were having discussions this morning about cooperation, and then we figured out maybe we are competitors, maybe we are cooperators, and I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. So every market needs more player to work on it, and exactly like Manuel says, we need to cooperate. We need to see where we are competitors, and then we need to see how we work in a fair and let's say sensible way together. And I think the market is so huge that we can need everybody to work on it, but we need to play it fair, and then I think everybody will win.
So there was a event, I don't recall where it was, I think it was in Berlin, where Travis Kalanick, the CEO of Uber, and Dieter Zetsche of Daimler were on the stage together, and I think they came to the conclusion that they're frenemies, friends and enemies at the same time. And that's the way they need to operate, because Uber doesn't want to build cars, and Daimler may or may not want to get into that space. So there will be this kind of slow dance, like in a waltz, of getting close to people, and then deciding whether or not you want to keep dancing or not. So, Manuel, back over to you. There's we haven't talked about autonomous yet, self-driving technology, but some of you may be aware that there are a number of self-driving bus companies now as well. So if you are in Paris, you will be aware that EasyMile and Navia have projects ongoing where the vehicles are driving. In Switzerland, actually, Postbus has a self-driving bus that is doing a route, and you have a lot of these pilots. Certainly in the UK, we have a number of pilots as well for self-driving buses. And what's interesting about this is that these buses are not operated usually by private operators. They're usually operated by public operators. In other words, bus companies and public transport operators. Now, public transport operators usually buy buses, but sometimes they finance them as well, and sometimes they lease them. So Navia, one of the providers of this autonomous bus, has recently come out with a deal by which public transport operators can rent or lease their self-driving buses for 48 or 60 months, just like maybe a car. Now, public transport operators today are presumably not your usual customers, Manuel, but can you imagine leasing or financing to public transport operators self-driving buses?
Thank you, Lukas. Well, I think the question has three different views. I will start for the less trendy, and I will finish by the more. Public segment, we treat it. Okay? So normally we have very nice public customers, and we normally treat public whatever transport. So we have a very nice customer in the town halls and so on. So in public segment, we will enter, we are in, and we will follow. Okay. The second point is buses. Our expertise, at least in Arval, is to lease vehicle less than 3.5 tons. Okay? And up to today, we do not have plans to go out of our knowledge. Okay? Because we really assume high risk on the asset base. So today, no plans to go exceed that limit. And I finish with a more fancy topic that is the self-driving. Not only buses, obviously. I think this is my view. They are leasable. So we will be able to lease this type of vehicles. What we need to do, at least from a service provider company, is to provide added value. So what I will need to do to the companies who would like to have self-autonomous vehicle is to create the business case together with them to amplify the usage of that. This is like the car sharing. Today we see car sharing in the cities, car sharing for private users, but we need to see car sharing in companies, and they need to understand the business model and their own company profit to have their own car sharing solution. They will need to understand what is the profit to have self-vehicles. And as Arval goes together with the customers, I guess that we will finish leasing self-drive.
So we heard it here first. There may very well come a time that an operator has a fleet of self-driving, maybe not buses, but self-driving taxis, self-driving cars, self-driving mobility provision in cities, and those may very well be leased from you. Maybe.
Why not? I will say.
Why not? Okay. All right. So, Matthias, will Volkswagen always sell cars, or will they sell miles? And what is the role that the technology companies like you have to push Volkswagen in that direction?
Yeah, okay, so I think it's hard for me to speak for the whole Volkswagen strategy, but...
Fair enough, okay. But your piece of the puzzle.
Yes, okay. So, so what I think and what I assume is it's going pretty much in that direction you're telling. So the collaborative consumption and the complete trend is going in the direction of sharing economy. And I think that answers the question already. Yes, it will be something in between. It will be, of course, to create very good and fantastic cars. That's something what the OEMs has to do. But of course, the question is, what is the business model behind it? And I think there's the change, and what of course our platform will be able to do is, it doesn't matter if you pay for parking, for charging, or for using a car, or upgrading your car for those nice ideas of you don't need the seat heated the whole year, but in the winter time you want to have it, and then you just activate it by push some button and then you pay for it. I think that's pretty much the same like using a car, and if everything is autonomous, you just pay the miles, so you don't need your own car probably in the future.
So I still have a number of questions, but maybe we take time in case anybody has questions in the audience now. Please just go to the microphone so that we can hear, and I'll repeat the question if not everybody can hear.
Okay, good. This is about who pays the bill and what bill you pay. Because at the end of the day, if we are thinking about the cars, it means that if you are a car factory or car industry, until now you were selling cars. Now you will sell miles. Okay, but who will finance this bridge between selling a big piece of a car or selling the mile? And after that, who will pay the infrastructures? Because
I'm sorry,
infrastructures, the roads.
Okay. Yes.
Because if we are going to connected car or self-driving car, it means that we have, until now, the public administration were paving the roads, and at the end of the day, they were providing the old technologies in order to move cars around the cities or whatever. I can see that in the highways that you will have some kind of infrastructures, because we used to pay the highways, and perhaps we'll pay $1 extra if we want to move our car, self-driving car. But it's about financing in one hand the infrastructures, and also financing what we talk about the cars.
So right now, even the financial model in most cities and most countries is built on the premise that we tax the diesel and the petrol. We tax the usage of the roads. We sometimes have tolls on the roads. We have congestion charging, etc. Everything is based around the car. But the end user, who no longer owns a car, may not actually pay that tax anymore. So the question, if I'm understanding it correctly, is who is going to pay? And does the operator just kind of roll that cost right down to the user? So if I get a ride for 20 kilometers in an Uber or something provided by Moya or Get or whatever, that infrastructure cost needs to be built into the miles. And how is it built in? It's an interesting question, because maybe Matthias, you can address it, because you, of course, do parking, which is also in many cities a very, very big part of the infrastructure.
So yes, I think that's one of the major points which is changing. So it's also happening in the electric charging infrastructure. So now governments earn a lot of money out of the taxes from the gassing. If nobody's taking gas anymore, then there must be a substitute for it. And I think that's the first moment when the problem appears. So what I assume is that it will happen that they transfer the tax in the charging of the car as well. And I think the infrastructure costs must appear like that. So like a toll collection, you will probably pay as use model also for the usage of the car.
Manuel, any thoughts on this in particular? I think with electric vehicles, part of it is that the government is, of course, no longer getting petrol or diesel taxes. But on the other hand, somebody has to build the charging infrastructure. Is that, if I get an electric car from Arval, will you build me a charger at my home or my office?
We need to think in two ways, okay? One, companies, and second, individuals, drivers. From the companies, obviously, the one who is going to pay is going to be the company, okay? And the company should have and infrastructure to support alternative energies, electric, gas, liquid gas, so they can have their own station even at the mother companies. Okay. Second, for the individuals. For the individuals, I think that we should provide, in the future, not today, a whole package of mobility. And the whole package, and there are companies that today are offering these services to try to rent the charger and try to rent the electricity to charge your vehicle. So it's totally feasible with today companies, and in the future, what it should be done with this and with many other things that today exist is the pure industrialization of this topic. And I think it's feasible.
We talked earlier on about the merging of different industries, Manuel, and now you're talking about energy becoming part of the mix. We, of course, know that Tesla doesn't even see itself as a car company. They see themselves as an energy company. They offer solar tiles. They offer batteries for the home as well. And others are, of course, getting into that space as well. Daimler, BMW, of course, Nissan are getting into the energy space. But I should think that energy companies have a little word to say about this as well. Maybe they want to get into the space, but they can't get into the car space. So how does that mix? Who's going to win this? Who's going to win this?
All.
Everybody wins and everybody loses.
My view is that the one who is going to win is the user. Okay, this is the one who is going to win for sure.
When there's a lot of competition and a lot of different people playing in this field, the user first wins, but someone still needs to make money.
Yes. I see 2 points. One, the electricity, it has an issue to go to the market, so he will need some joint ventures and again some partners to go to the new market. So partnership follows to be, to me, the right way to accomplish the future that we have in front of us. Partnership is key. The government will have another issue, that the taxes that we have are mainly in the usage, and is done through the diesel and gasoline taxes, not through the registration tax, not the road tax. Okay, it is more for the petrol and gas taxes. So if this follow in this line, we should change the taxation of the country to be able to have taxes because of the usage as it is today. So
you can see your question, which was nominally an infrastructure question, now gets into a very, very political space. But let's try to avoid that. Maybe take the next question. You have
Yeah, hi, hello. I work for Estonian connected car software development company, and a lot of our prospects is asking for in-car or talking about in-car mobile payments. So the question is, how do you see the future of in-car payments, and will there be every car manufacturer will have its own payment system, or will there be third-party developers? Just tell me how you see it in the future.
That's of course one nice question with a complex answer, but let me try to bring it to the point. So I think every car manufacturer will go for an own payment platform because, as we heard, the customer is the biggest value. Then we always hear data is the new currency. So everybody will for sure go in the competition and fight for the customer. From my point of view, when you take a look at the customer side, the customer is not caring if he's going in that garage or in that garage, having this technology or that. He wants to be mobile. He wants to come from A to B. And I assume that there must be this, I like this frenemy thing. So people together have to create a platform, and this platform must be shared because, I can give you a simple example. There are 3 major barrier producers in the parking industry. Let's say 5 or 10, but in Germany there are 3. And you speak with the first and I want to have exclusivity. And we say, yeah, but it's not sensible. People are not looking what kind of barrier you're using. And that's just give you a feeling. So I think So what we try to is to make an aggregator, a platform where all those services are combined and addressable. And we are also speaking now with different car producers, like not part of the Volkswagen Group. And we try to find a situation where they keep the data, but also using our platform for addressing the service to their customer. That's something what we assume could be the key, because our platform is also not unhappy if there's more transaction on it, more traffic on it. And they can, so to make this job running from city to city and acquire them, that's such a really effort and a hard thing. And if we can offer it and use it together, everybody will win. And I think we need a good platform which is interoperable and a free mindset for people to work on that. And I think that's how it comes to the car.
But it's a little bit more complex than in-car payments. So this is the public transport card in London, the Oyster card, and there are literally tens of billions of pounds stored in roughly 100 million Oyster cards that have been issued in London. Similarly, in Hong Kong, there's the Octopus card. The Octopus card has massive storage of money, but you can not just use it for public transport. You can also go to 7-Eleven and you can buy, and you can go shopping. So you can see that the public transport operators are getting into the space of payment as well, and they have a keen interest to expand their role. And at the same time, you also have Apple Pay, which you can now use for public transport as well in a lot of cities. And you have Visa and MasterCard and you have Amex, who I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that they are going to get into this space and want to provide a seamless payment platform. So the question then is, as Matthias says, is who do you cooperate with and who do you compete with? Yeah, so if I can use my debit card to tap into the public transport system in London, that's great, but it means that I have less of these. Can I use my debit card now to get a zip card? Not yet, but maybe I can. But can I use the Zipcar card to pay for something else? So there's a question of how many cards, how many different apps can a user actually, will a user want to use? And is there a meta level? Will Citymapper, will Movil, will Move It, AliApp, all of these meta apps create payment systems where I can go and pay for all the various different modes of transport directly out of the meta app? That's, I think, the next level in the mobility puzzle. Maybe you're part of a big bank. Any thoughts on this, Manuel?
Well, I love one sentence that came from the animal special, but it's applied to companies as well, okay? From Charles Darwin. That is not the strongest species who survive, is the more adaptable, okay? For us, as Arval, here in Barcelona, we are part of a payment hub, an innovation in payment hubs. What the hell is doing Arval in a payment hub, okay? The answer is, we don't know. But if we find the answer, I'm going to find a lot of customers, okay? So it's not that today we have the future, but today the technology is there. We know that we need to move there. We need partnership to arrive there. We have startups to help us to arrive there, because startups has crazy ideas who can make a lot of money in big companies. So we really need to be close to them in order to arrive there. I cannot tell you today what will be that future. What I know is that 5 years ago, somehow the petrol station launched a fuel card, and today in my service is fully integrated, and the customer doesn't see to whom they are paying the gasoline. They are paying to me, okay? If I'm able to provide that service today, imagine what I can do in the future with technology. So for me, the innovation and the adaptiveness is critical. And payments, we should be part of it to know the future competitors that I don't know today.
How about other questions? Does anybody else have a question from the audience? Any thoughts? Maybe any comments? Are we thinking too far into the future? Are we thinking not far enough into the future? Any thoughts? So Matthias, who's going to win? Who wins the fight for the end user?
We. No, okay. I don't know. So of course, it's a matter of the goal. So at the end, I like that approach. The customer will win. I like that if you take this we far enough, then it's true. Because if we come to the point that we let's say now it's getting a little bit yeah. So if we come back to the situation that we do not burn too much fuel and we're getting a greener world, that's cool. If we have more time to spend with our friends and family, that's cool. So to make the life easier, that's a good goal. So at the end, all those things what are happening here are intending to make the life easier for the people. And I think that's something what is a very good goal. What we have seen in your presentation, this car manufacturer 5 years, 3 years now want to become in a more touch point situation. The renter car companies try to go in the selling cars and also making the very short term transactions. So I think that's a kind of there are no more too many limits, no more borders, and I think at the end we come to the point. Yeah, here you can see it. At the end, we come to the point that everybody is gaining some share of the other market, creating a common platform, and I think at the end the customer will use the service, which is making the best quality and the best usage for the customer side, and therefore I think quality is one key. And if you make a good quality and a good customer journey, then probably the customer will vote for you.
So this becomes a classic marketing question. You have differentiation by quality, you probably have differentiation by price, you maybe have differentiation by comfort. And if I want to take a ride in the cheapest possible way, maybe I get the pooled ride with 10 other smelly people in a 10-year-old bus. Or if I want to have a premium experience, I get a premium vehicle to pick me up and take my family where I want to be over whatever distance. Okay. So anybody else? How are we for time? We have about 5 minutes left. So yeah, any questions? Please.
Hello. This is for. In the case of TraviPay, I see that integration is the future of payment, but if you as a company want to integrate, what would be a best strategy? To try to put as much services and different paying capabilities into the platform, or just really integrating, for example, the parking space? Not just a few parking spaces, but the whole spectrum of parking space. Which would you think is the best strategy to go into the market?
So if I get you right, you're asking what is the best strategy to go into a special market that's now from a startup perspective, or for combining the whole thing, or?
What I mean is to really to solve the unmet needs of the customer. What do you think they prefer? To pay for everything in the car, but just a few companies, for example, in the resort of ski or in the movies or whatsoever, but not the whole spectrum? Or just be able to fulfill the whole spectrum of just a specific area for them?
Okay, so what I think is the people. So as more the people using one app, the more they have a good feeling, and it's also about a relationship, yeah. And the more touch point or the point of interest, the point of sales you are having combined in one platform, the more you will use it, yeah. And I think that's something. What we are at least striving for. So I think if you go to a city, you are not checking where you want to park. You want to go to visit a friend or to the cinema or whatever. And therefore, our obligation is to bring as much parking spaces as possible into this platform and to give you the best possible service. And then you can decide if you want to be the closest. Again, it comes to quality and price. So if you want to be as close as possible, probably there's a garage, a car park, which is more expensive than another parking which is a few hundred meters away. And you can park there for almost for free or use a park and ride service or whatever. So that's something what must be adjustable then in the future situation, and then you as a customer decide what is your preference.
So maybe two statistics just to show how significant this space is. In Los Angeles, in inner city Los Angeles, over 50% of the space of the city is used for parking. And in Berlin, over 30%, and this also applies to other cities as well, it's probably true in Barcelona, it's probably true in other, over 30% of the cars that are driving around are looking for parking. Yeah, and I think you know this yourself. If you drive from A to B, if you go visit your friend on the other side of town, it takes you 20 minutes to get there, and it takes you 10 minutes to drive around and look for a parking spot. That's a 30-minute trip, and you're spending that 10 minutes, so 33% of the time, looking for the parking spot. This is real life, and this shows the extent of the problem, but also the opportunity, certainly from a parking point of view. But it also shows from an infrastructure point of view the potential that cities will have when we find intelligent solutions for this.
Yeah, I think also it addresses also that predictive parking. So when I want to get from A to B and I know that I will be there, so also the routing shows you, okay, now if you go to Google Maps and check how long you need to come from A to B, it's pretty good. But right now it's just showing the actual time situation, yeah. And I think there will be developments for if Barcelona is playing soccer and the game is over, then a lot of people will start driving around, and if you then cross that road, you probably will take more than 10 minutes to go by that way. And the other story is, if you know if the parking is free, then it's also helping you a lot. You can save 1/3 of your time.
So, other questions from the audience? Does anyone have any thoughts or concerns or questions?
Or wishes?
Or wishes? Because I've one more thought in all of this, and this comes up a lot in a lot of conversations. I think it's a much smaller issue. A lot of people are very concerned with the issue of data privacy. And if everything is on one platform, if I'm paying everything with whether it be a Visa, an Oyster, a Volkswagen, with an Arval card, or with whatever, there's a certain transparency. Do you see this as an issue?
Well, I don't think that it's an issue any longer, personally speaking, because today I am localized for at least 5 different applications that I have in my mobile, okay? I have 3 applications for running, geolocalized at all. My wife could know actually what I'm talking about, almost. So I'm totally localized today with my mobile. So my data, it's already there. So from a company perspective, I really think that we are not so concerned as in the past of this topic. Okay.
Yeah, I can agree on that. So also we experienced it. So we started back in the days using the mobile operator billing because it was anonymous. So people can instantly use it and do not have to give any of their personal data. But by using the Apple Pay and Apple platform or registering in other like Google platforms and so on, or Amazon, the people are used to register. Of course, we need to really take care for the data and data protection issues, and that's what I can say. When we changed from the startup to the part of the Volkswagen Group, we had to invest a lot of money to ramp up the security and also for the data protection. So I think we are on a very high level. As Volkswagen Financial Services is also a bank, it's one of the highest value to protect the customers' data. And yes, there is a situation where you can make use of those data, but I think the most use is to protect the customer, and if you have a quality and good product, the customer will use it, and then you can upsell through your product. I think that's the better way.
Excellent, thank you. You have another question?
Yeah, just a quick one. It's a question to Matthias. At Mobile World Congress this year, I was talking to Bosch guys, and they have their own parking solution. That's actually huge parking solution for autonomous cars, for different kind of parkings. So how will that work with you? Because like you have your own part of share of parking spaces. Bosch have its own part of space. How do you share those? If I use your solution, that means that I will not be able to park where Bosch can. Or how do you plan to work together? How do you plan to provide all parking spaces? Thank you.
Yes. So I try to repeat. So the question is, if there's another car manufacturer having another area of parkings, how we can interact? Yeah, the answer is like we are working already on those roaming agreements, we call it, so that their customers can use our parking areas and vice versa, and that would be the key. So again, the customer is not taking care who is operating or who's, let's say, giving you the opportunity to use the service to pay for parking. But if there would be a version A and a version B, and you always have to download a new app, then nobody will use it. So it's just possible if you have one app, and this must be working everywhere. And that's what we also work. That's what I meant also by saying we are free to cooperate. So if somebody wants to use our platform, just contact us.
So basically you are open to partnerships with your competitors on sharing the space.
Yes.
So the battle for the screen is a battle of brands, it's a battle of apps, it's a battle of for the eyeballs of the consumer, and there will be many, many winners. First of all, the consumers. One final question, who's going to lose?
The ones who listen less the customer. For me, it's a matter to listen, understand, and serve. If you are able to do these three things with quality, I think you will survive. I don't know in which position, but you will survive. But this is difficult. So everybody say that listen. If I ask what you have understand of what I have said, each of you has understand something different. So it's not so easy to listen and provide the proper service. The one who is going to lose, the less attractive. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, I can agree on that. So what I think who will lose in the field of digitalization is everybody who sticks to analog medias. So I do not expect in 10 years parking meters to be in the street. So back in the days we had the telephone cells where you were able to call on each corner. Now you have it in your pocket, and I think this is happening to the, let's say, hardware infrastructure for putting coins in. I think this will disappear. Those companies also go now in the direction of mobility, so digitalization. So I think the old traditional way of paying a parking or paying different things like P&D machines, I think they will disappear, and probably this branch who was developing this will lose, but with the opportunity to change right now. So I think that's the way to see, and exactly what you say. Listen to the customer and make it with a good quality. Yeah?
These are some great words to close the session with. Allow me two things. First of all, just to, I don't know if I can. Don't know. Anyway. Just to suggest that if you've heard anything that you like, please come up to us afterwards. Please tweet, please communicate what you've heard. Please have a look as well. When I say the mobility revolution, allow me a short plug. I've written a book called The Mobility Revolution, which you can find on Amazon and a number of other platforms. Please do join me in thanking Matthias and Manuel. And I thank Fira Barcelona and Connected Hub for the time and this great opportunity to discuss this. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of the day here at the conference.